Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. We are here for our weekly hormone chat, just logging on and getting situated. So if you have not come live to one of our hormone chats before, or if you're watching this later after it's recorded, we meet every week on Tuesdays, and it is in a Zoom session, and you can access the Zoom link through our Facebook group. So remember, you have access to this Facebook group. Not everyone does. It is a private group. These video sessions are recorded and posted on our group. So if you ever can't make one, then you can come back and watch it later. We also always have kind of a topic of focus for the week. That being said, let me just open my screen up here. That being said, you're always welcome to come and ask different topics, or ask different questions, even if it is not specifically or directly related to our topic for the week. So this week's topic, we're talking about hormones and moods. Mood changes are one of the biggest things that I see. It's one of the main reasons that women come looking for help with their hormones is because they don't feel like themselves anymore. Their state of mind just doesn't feel like what it used to. They don't have that same optimism, vibrancy, positivity. And there are a lot of factors that can contribute to our mood changes, of course, but don't downplay or disregard hormones, because hormones play a huge, very direct role in our moods. So just kind of to start off with, when I think about when we talk about moods, mental health, it's not the exact same thing, but they are related. So your mental health is impacted by your emotional well-being and your social well-being. Okay, so the two are really directly related. But some mood changes that you might be experiencing if you're in perimenopause are things like feeling more anxious than usual, just feeling very overwhelmed and not able to manage stress like you used to be able to. A really telltale sign is waking up at like 3 to 4 a.m., just kind of with the mind racing. That is a really common thing with hormone imbalances and the anxiety component. So waking up just anxious, racing thoughts, that is a huge, huge hormone thing. Just feeling depressed, feeling more emotional, tearful, irritable, any of those things that you equate with kind of your emotional or mental well-being. Again, hormones play a direct role. And what happens is, we get into our 40s and we think like, why am I depressed? Why am I acting this way? And then we go to our regular doctor, and our regular doctor says, well, what else is going on in life? And we say, oh gosh, my parents are getting older. Their health isn't that great. Or, my marriage is struggling. I'm having a lot of problems with my teenager. And your doctor will say, okay, well, we better get you on an anxiety medication or an antidepressant. That's kind of the phase one. And, there's a time and place for medications, but what I encourage you is to not let that be your first go-to and your number one. Because some of those things we can't control, right? When you're in your 40s, things are happening, or even early 50s for that matter. Remember, this is the 40s-ish hormone fix. So there are things happening that we can't control, a lot of them. Our kids are getting older. We might have a teenager who's going through some troubles. Our parents are getting sick, COVID, pandemics, losing jobs. Like there's so many things that we can't control. And you guys will hear me say this a million times, but when there's all these factors spinning around us that we can't control, we've got to grasp onto the things that we can, which starts with identifying what can we control and how can we control them, because that is going to make that much of a difference when all these other things are happening that we can't control. Maybe all we need is to fix that one or two thing that we can control, and that will then spill over into these other areas of your lives. Hopefully I'm making sense with that. So that's what I do with women that I work with, is really hit heavy on those things that we can control, such as your hormones. Your hormones are something that we can do a lot of very sustainable shifts to that can make a huge difference in the way that you're feeling, including your moods. So, okay. Another thing I wanted to say on this topic is a reminder that you're a woman. You are nothing like a man. Nothing. Your body's not like a man's. Your hormones aren't like a man's. Your brain doesn't work like a man's. We are cyclical beings. We're created to change. We're created to change on a monthly basis. And when you're in your 40s and then into your 50s and then you're past menopause, we might not be bleeding every month anymore, but we are still and always will be a cyclical being. There are things happening inside your body that will continue happening in a cyclical fashion, even when you're post-menopause. And I emphasize that to point out to you, that we're not going to always feel the same day to day, because we're not the same day to day, versus a man, no offense to them, but their hormones are pretty stagnant. So they're pretty emotionally kind of the same. You guys may have or may not have experienced that in your own lives. Versus females, we are evolving, changing every day, every second. I am not the same person on the inside that I was yesterday. You are not the same person on the inside that you were a month ago. That just is how it is. So that is one of those things that we can't control. We're always changing. So I don't want to say you can't expect to, because that's not very nice, but it's understandable, right, that you won't feel the same every single day. So I like to lay out that expectation just from the beginning, because you are literally changing on the inside every single day. So again, you can't always expect to feel the same. While things are cycling and while we're changing on the inside, again, we come in and do what we can to control these other factors that we can control to help your mood stay stable, as much as possible. We do everything that we can to your hormones to support a stable mood. That way, when, somebody does throw a stick in your path, metaphorically speaking, you don't just fall and crumble. You have these stable hormones. You're starting out on a good foundation. So when these things get thrown your way, you get laid off. Oh my goodness. Like, these things get thrown your way that can and understandably will just, crush you, and they're life-changing. But if we can have your hormones stable, you are going to handle it that much more gracefully. So, all right, enough of that soapbox. So to get to some of the questions that were asked today, let's see. So most of them are pretty general questions that I've touched on even a little bit already, but one of them was just, what is causing my mood changes, right? In perimenopause, which hormone is it? What specifically? And we're looking at two main hormones here. We're looking at our estrogen and our progesterone. There are definitely other players, but for sake of this conversation, we're going to look at those two hormones. And your moods can become really unstable when those two hormones are out of balance. And what I mean by out of balance is, you almost have to look at estrogen and progesterone like they're married. If estrogen's doing great, life is looking good, but progesterone is struggling, they're a team. So the whole team is going to struggle. On the flip side, if, progesterone's doing okay, but you've had some issues, let's say some gut issues that can cause high estrogen. Let's say you've had some gut issues going on, and now your estrogen has gotten elevated. Okay. So one half of that marriage is off. So the whole relationship is not going to feel quite right. So either of these two imbalances, whether it be an estrogen thing or a progesterone thing, both of those issues can cause mood changes. So primarily, we're looking at the fluctuation in hormones, the ups and downs. The number one hormone imbalance of women in their 40s is low progesterone. Low progesterone will all the time cause your moods to be unstable. Progesterone is our calming hormone. It's our soothing hormone. It helps us sleep well through the night. It helps us stay more calm and patient and even keeled throughout the day. If your progesterone is low, which again, this is the most common imbalance for women in perimenopause, that is absolutely going to throw your moods for a loop, because your estrogen is rolling along, in this nice pattern that we've talked about that it has. But if your progesterone is dipping, that discrepancy between your estrogen or between your progesterone and your estrogen gets bigger. Then our body turns to thinking that we have a situation called estrogen dominance, and it thinks that our estrogen is high, even when it's really not. It's really a progesterone issue, which again is the more common scenario. So what we can do in a case like this is implement strategies to naturally boost your progesterone. I know some of you are on hormone replacement therapy, so all of this applies to you too. Quick caveat: whether or not you're on hormone replacement therapy, we still apply very similar principles to help your body boost or optimize its natural hormone production. We just loop your hormone replacement into the mix. But there are a lot of things that we can do to naturally boost your progesterone levels. And these are things that are sustainable, that you can incorporate into your life with ease. It's very doable for you. So those things help offset that progesterone deficiency, which right there will lead to more stable moods for you throughout the entire month. Progesterone really is a woman's best friend. If we can get your body naturally producing more progesterone, you're going to have better moods. You're going to sleep better. Your metabolism is going to pick up, all of these things. And I actually have we have a round starting up in a few weeks here of the Total Hormone Reset. The Total Hormone Reset is a program where we focus exactly on this, on helping you naturally boost your own progesterone so you can get rid of all of these symptoms on your own without having to rely on going to see specialist after specialist, without having to go from creams to patches to lozenges and so on and so on. So the biggest thing that we can do to stabilize your mood is to naturally boost your progesterone. That is going to support any fluctuations that you have in estrogen levels. Now, that aside, so we look at your progesterone. We also do look at your estrogen. And if you are also having some estrogen imbalances, then we tackle those also. So then we look at what I call your hormone ins and outs. We look at, where's your body getting its estrogen from? And then how is it getting it out? Sources of estrogen include our bodies. We make it in our fat tissue. And then our hormone building blocks come from our healthy fats that we eat. Your body uses those to make estrogen. So your estrogen ins and outs and your progesterone are what we look at when you're struggling with really unstable moods. By boosting your progesterone and working on those estrogen ins and outs, how are we getting them into your body and how are we getting out? We can really curb those mood fluctuations. So to give you some examples, I have a client named Kiara, and she came to me, and this was really her only thing. She was a little bit younger. She's 42, and she came to me saying, like, I don't know if this is my hormones, but I have to do something. This is impacting my marriage. It's impacting my work. It's impacting all of my day-to-day functions. And what we realized, she told me more about her moods, and they fluctuate. She's impatient, irritable, short-tempered with her spouse. And then 2 days later, she's crying, and she's not really sure why she's crying. And then 2 days after that, she's happy again. And she just really couldn't find much rhyme or reason to it. And that happens a lot where we can't see our own patterns, but when somebody else comes in and puts their set of eyes on our lives, especially someone who's a hormone expert, we were really able to line up her mood variations with her hormone patterns. And in doing that, we could, number one, predict when the moods were going to come on. But we took action to support her specific imbalances so that not only was she more mindful of, okay, I feel this way in this pattern. So I know this is coming up. So mentally I'm prepared. But we also did things to support her hormone production so that she didn't have that fluctuation in hormones. And sure enough, her moods are so much better already. And it's so crazy because we think like, we tend to blow off our hormones, or I think it's not so much blow off our hormones. We tend to underestimate our own capability of fixing ourselves because we're so taught to look elsewhere. We're taught to look at, medications. We're taught to seek all these answers from somewhere else. And it seems almost too good to be true to think like, oh, wait, my body can just do this. My body can handle things on its own. And it really can. It takes, sometimes it takes a lot of undoing of certain habits and building of new habits, but your body is absolutely capable of giving you the calm, stable moods that you're looking for. In Kira's case, what was really hard for her was she just felt not like myself anymore. She would say, I've always been such a happy person. And so I'm speaking for her now, but she would say, I'm such a happy person. And I really have no reason to be emotional. I have no reason to act this way or to feel this way. Like my life is good. So if this is you, if this resonates and you feel alone or lost or like, I don't even know who to talk to because I don't have much to complain about. And I used to not have this issue. So my spouse thinks that it's, just me, or I just need to change my attitude. I'm here to tell you that it is not just you. There are so many things changing in your body right now, not even just your hormones, but your hormones alone are 2000% enough to make your moods unstable. So if you have those moments of feeling like you're crazy, not understanding why you're angry, why you're having these outbursts, why you're sad or tearful, remember that there are things changing inside your body. Once you remember that then it is your responsibility to take action and to change it. If you have the information, your hormones are changing, or if you suspect your hormones are changing, you have the symptoms, you have these mood changes. So we have the evidence to support that your hormones are changing. Now it's time to take action. So now it's time to look at yourself and think, okay, what am I going to do about this? Am I going to continue this way? Am I going to continue trying different things? Maybe I'll go to the gym once a week. Maybe that will help my moods because gosh, surely I'll get that like dopamine release or something, right? Which is great. It is good to go to the gym once a week, but that's not going to be it. That's not going to solve all your problems because you have things changing inside of you. So again, there are action steps that need to be, that can be taken, and I'm absolutely here to help with that. So if you are interested in taking some of these action steps that I've referred to that will help support your hormone changes, don't suffer in silence. Reach out, let me know. I'm here for you. You also can post on this group, right? That's what everyone is here for. We're here to start learning from each other and sharing experiences. So post your stories below. If nothing else, just to kind of get it out. And again, to know that you're not alone. So we still have some time. So one question that I'm going to address that I wasn't sure that we would have time for kind of goes along with what I just said. Will stress help? Will stress help my mood? Not stress, excuse me. Will exercise help with my hormones to help my mood? So along that token, exercise is good until it's not. It's good until it's too much. So I would say if you're somebody who's going through the hormone changes of perimenopause and really, really struggling with unstable moods, I do not recommend that you just go out and start, going to spin class 3 times a week to help de-stress or unwind, which you think will then help your moods. High stress workouts can actually worsen hormones instead of making them better. So remember, we're talking hormones. We're trying to target hormone balance. So going into just exercise and no other plan, again, I wouldn't recommend it. I would also be mindful of the exercises that you're doing. And that's something that you can post here and ask about also, but just to kind of quickly go over it. If you are having a lot of unstable moods, I would focus more on peaceful movement. By that, I mean things like, walking, and not even walking too briskly, but things like walking, stretching, restorative yoga poses. Those are more calming types of exercise that are great for your body, but aren't so stressful on your body. And stress, if you don't know this already, you'll hear me talk about it a lot, but stress does really nothing but damage on your hormones when it comes to being too stressed. And that includes overly stressful workouts. So that was the only other question I had. Since we still have some time, I will just go ahead and share kind of personal story, really, or story about myself. This is one of the areas that really hits close for me because mood instability was one of the major things that I struggled with through my decades of battling with my hormones. Starting with when I was young. So if you are somebody who had a lot of mood fluctuations when you were younger, like with PMS, and maybe that's gone away, as you move into perimenopause, you're more risk of having those things again. If you struggled with your emotional and mental health before in your younger days, you are more likely to have that again when you move into perimenopause, but that is not kind of a make or break thing. Research shows that 9 out of 10 women report signs and symptoms of mental distress during perimenopause. And that's including women who have never had any signs or no diagnoses or anything in the past. So mine started off at a young age. I mean, I was a teenager in high school and struggled with really, really bad mood ups and downs when I was PMSing. I would typically get very, very tearful. I would have very low self-confidence, doubt everything, not just about doubting what I was doing, but doubting myself and my capabilities. And eventually I realized that this happened to me on a monthly cyclical fashion. So starting at a young age, I was able to at least mentally prepare for it and know this is coming. And then as I got older in both my personal and professional career as a pharmacist, I learned more about how to manage my hormones on my own. So now, thank you, Jesus, I am not a crazy lady for a week out of a month. Sometimes I have a little bit of crazy because, we're never perfect, but for the most part, my moods are very, very stable. But for me, it was really severe. I mean, I hate to say it, but even to the point of like suicidal thoughts, certain months throughout my youth because my hormones were so imbalanced. And for me, I was not making progesterone really at all. So I didn't have that progesterone on board to support my estrogen. Now I don't feel like that anymore, but I'm still mindful of it every month. I still prepare myself to know this is my time of month that I will become more emotional. And what can I do to control that besides the efforts that I'm already putting into place to support my hormones? Bring in other just simple, realistic tools, things like I have a really fun event that I want to do. I want to take my kids to go see this new Ice Capades show. I'm giving you an example from when they were younger, but okay, let's pick the weekend. There's a couple weekend options. Let's pick the weekend when I know I'm going to be in a better mood and not feeling my least confident, most overwhelmed self. So you can kind of pick and choose activities, and not everyone has to do this, but this is something that I have implemented in my life where I'm selective on what days I'll do certain things because I know that factor has the potential to either pull my mood down or pull my mood up. And if it's a time where I know that I naturally have lower progesterone, so I'm doing what I can to support it, but I'm also going to fill my life with joyful things during this time period until my hormones circle back around again. And I know I'm in a more hormonally stable place. So again, that's just me. And every woman is different. My hormones are different than your hormones, which are different than the next woman's and the next. And we all vary in our degree of sensitivity to our hormones. Some women have never had a day of PMS, never had a day of cramps, never had mood issues, hot flashes, night sweats, none of that. Some do. Most don't. Most women are sensitive to hormonal changes, and your degree of sensitivity just varies. So don't ever fault yourself in that. Don't ever fault yourself for thinking, why am I so impatient? Why am I snapping at my husband? Why am I crying, every 3 weeks for really no apparent reason? Don't be hard on yourself. Give yourself grace, and then acknowledge that there are absolutely ways to rectify that don't involve going to your doctor and getting on an antidepressant or getting on an anti-anxiety medication. And I'm not bashing those options by any means. I just want you to know that there very much are options, and there are many things that you can do in your day-to-day life, in the life that you're living right now, that will help you make these hormonal shifts so that you have more stable moods all on your own without having to rely on anybody else, which is such a beautiful thing, right? Okay, I'm going to wrap up for today. If you have questions on this session, you can still post them anytime, either in the events section or on our discussion page, or reach out to me. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, ladies. Thank you so much for your time. I'll see you next week.